Legends, we're getting back into He-Man. We're not getting into He-Man, we're getting into Masters of Universe Revelation, because it couldn't be called He-Man and the Master of the Universe due to licensing issues, strangely enough. Legalities. You know, it's weird whenever you get into making these sort of things based on an old cartoon, but you can't actually use the title of the old cartoon in the new cartoon because of some weird little law in the background where you can't use He-Man in the title, but you can have the character from the show called He-Man. That's a strange, weird and wonderful universe of creation whenever you get into this stuff. And the legal side of a lot of things is just mind-boggling, and it's really flipping weird. But I digress. We get into episode 5 of Revelation, and this is the Forge at the Forest of Forever. And we open the episode with the heroes having a moment for their fallen comrade, Orko. Beautiful little moment that have a little gravestone put up for him, and Adam has carved on this little engraving, and they say a few words over it, and Teela puts down the scarf of Orko's and says a few words, and even Evelyn takes off her helmet and puts it down, and you know, she pretty much says you were a fool sort of a deal, but there is a genuine connection between her and Orko at this point, which I think they're going to probably revisit later in the follow-ups, you know, the next 5 episodes. As I said in the last video, this is fantasy after all. Just because a character dies doesn't mean they're not going to come back, and I've every faith we'll see Orko again. So they're here, they're in Preternia, and it doesn't take long to get the other part of the power sword. Adam has it, and he gives it to them, and he doesn't know what's going on outside of Preternia. You know, what's happening, is the magic gone sort of a deal, let me know what's happening back there. And Teela's like, you know, only telling you this would torment you, but Adam does tell her that, you know, the only reason you get into Preternia is because Subternia shares a wall with it. Now that you're here, chances are you're not getting back out, you're going to be here forever sort of a deal. But they decide to head off and meet up with Grayskull himself, King Grayskull. We meet the character that Castle Grayskull was named after. Whenever the illusion was cast to hide the Hall of Wisdom, they named the castle after Grayskull, the first person to will the Sword of Power. And you know, we get to see quite a few of the previous champions of Eternia in this episode. They're all in heaven, they've reached their goal, got their reward, they're all here, and they're all kind of making fun of Adam, because when they ascended to Preternia, you can choose your form there, so they chose their higher self form, so you know, the He-Man version of themselves. But when Adam turned up, he decided to keep the Adam form and not the He-Man form. This speaks a lot to the character of Prince Adam, or the heroic side of him, is who he is, not just who he becomes when he is He-Man, but the person he is as Prince Adam. It's interesting. I like that little part of the episode. Going to cut it very short in this episode. There's not a lot that happens besides getting the power sword put back together. They do manage that with Roboto's help, and he actually ends up sacrificing himself to do that. And when he's about to shut down, he tells Teela that he never thought he'd be afraid to die, but now that my gears are starting to slow and the program's about to stop, I feel afraid. And she's like, hold on, we'll get you back to Eternia, and Duncan can rebuild you. And he's like, you know what, I feel there's no better way to go. And he stops functioning. It's a great little episode. We get to see Mossman is back in this episode. Of course, anybody that died up to this point are in Preternia as far as the heroes go. And yes, they do eventually get to a castle that's connected to Grayskull from Paternia, and there is a way back there. There's a doorway, but nobody has ever went back before because, as King Grayskull says, why would we go back? We're in heaven. We've got our reward. It would be unnatural to go back. So when the heroes decide to leave, take the Sword of Power back to Eternia to try and restore everything, Prince Adam is like, who's going to call down the power if I'm not there? And the other heroes tell him, you know what, there was heroes before you, there's going to be heroes after you. Lay down the mantle of hero, stay where you're at, you've got your reward. If you go back to Eternia now, you're not coming back to Preternia. It's like a one-way deal they're setting up in this episode. Now, I don't know if that's going to stick, goodness knows, but in this one they're saying if you leave you can't come back. So Adam makes yet another incredibly heroic decision in this episode and turning down heaven to help his friends, which speaks a lot to the character of Prince Adam / He-Man. And they head back to Eternia, Adam and tow, and they appear at Castle Grayskull, and they're in the middle of a battle with Triclops and Trapjaw and the weird techno cult. They're bombarding Castle Grayskull, and Duncan is up there, man at arms. He's been fighting them off, and he says like the raids come every couple of hours, and he sees that Adam is back. He can't believe his eyes. And then I wasn't expecting it, and I don't know why I didn't see it coming, but we did know that when Man at Arms was sent to Castle Grayskull to protect the sorceress, she's like, the only person she's got protecting her is Cringer. And the fact that when Adam turns up at Castle Grayskull, Cringer's obviously in there. I didn't even expect it to happen, and you hear Cringer's voice going, Adam, and everybody moves aside and you see Cringer there, and he's kind of like, there's a little bit of a tear in his eye, happiness. He jumps onto Adam, knocks him on his back, and he starts licking his face and everything. It's just a nice little moment. And they do get into Castle Grayskull. They get down to the bottomest floors where the final fight of the first episode took place, and they're ready to unsheath the power sword and restore magic to Eternia, save the planet. And Adam, hand in the air, by the power of Grayskull, the energy starts coming down. He gives it a bit of time to work. He doesn't change straight away, and you see different parts of the room starting to change. There was grass and wildlife and stuff in there in the first episode. It's all dead and decaying in this episode, and you see the energy going around the walls and revitalizing everything, and everything's going great. And even Evelyn, at this point, her magic staff starts to light up again, and she looks at it and she's all happy that the magic's coming back. This thing's even working. And just as Prince Adam goes to say, I have the power, he goes like, I have, and this staff busts through his stomach, his side, more or less. A lot of people said he could kill his own dead. He got stabbed through his heart. He didn't get stabbed through his heart. It was the side. It was just down around about here somewhere. It's one of these injuries that's pretty nasty, but I don't think it's going to kill him. And I have my own theories in that, but we'll get to that once we get over what happens at the end of this episode. As he turns around, you see it's the Havoc staff with Skeletor starting to reform, and he is coming out of Evelyn's staff, and he takes the power sword off Adam, before he gets a chance to change the He-Man. And he tells Evelyn, it's like, good job, Lenny. Whenever I was almost destroyed in the original explosion, I hid my essence inside your staff, your wand, whatever you want to call it, to protect myself. And now that things are starting to revitalise, he used that magical energy to, bring himself back and attack Adam, get the power sword off him. And he says to Evelyn, up to this point, of course, she's had her kind of crisis of faith throughout the series to this point, and he's like, take your place at my side. And Evelyn delivers the line perfectly. She's just like, she looks at everybody and she just kind of like takes a breath, and I was really starting to like you kids, and her voice goes back to the evil sort of Evelyn that we did know up to this point. And Beastman also joins Skeletor again, and he's like, it's good to have you back, my lord. And then, the two sides are starting to face off kind of at the end of the episode. Adam's on his back, looks like he's in his deathbed, and of course Skeletor then raises a sword, and by the power of Grayskull, I have the power, and he becomes Skelly God, and that's where the episode finishes off. So it's a nice little cliffhanger to close out the first 5 episodes. Now, Prince Adam isn't going to die. It would be ridiculous to think that he's going to die at this point. The magical energy at this point was revitalizing the whole of Eternia. Everything was coming back to life. That energy is going to regenerate him, and kind of like a Doctor Who sort of a style as well. We don't get to see what happens to the sorceress at the end of this episode. Whenever he called in the magical energy to transform into He-Man, there was the beam, and the sorceress had stepped into that too, and she was kind of recharging, revitalizing as well. So we didn't see what happened to her at the end of the episode, but she, if anybody can save Adam, the sorceress can. So anything can happen. Did say it again last episode, fantasy, it is what it is. That's class. That's brilliant. I'm absolutely loving this series. It's getting a lot of death online right now. There's a lot of people giving it serious negative reviews. Like, I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan. Like, he's getting ripped across the coals over this series. But if you know where it's coming from and where they're going to go with it, it's for someone like myself that grew up with a cartoon. Now, excuse me, I've got a bit of a peanut stuck in my tooth. If you grew up watching the show, like myself, you'll have some memories of it. But, and saying that, I have been doing the reviews of the original He-Man and the Masters of the Universe in the lead up to this series. Didn't get to finish it, but I will before part 2 of this series comes out. They're holding back a big piece of the story in these first 5 episodes, and the key to it was in the very first episode, whenever the orb was cracked by Skeletor, and the sorceress said to Teela, I just wanted to see you one last time. There's a couple of times throughout the series where other characters tried to step in to tell Teela some big secret that they're holding back for the final 5 episodes. And spoilers, I'm going to spoil the crap out of it for you. So if you don't know what this is, you're going to get it spoiled right now. So you've been forewarned. Like, you're 14 minutes into this video. If you haven't jumped out of it now, you're not going to jump out of it. And fact of the matter is, the sorceress tried to tell her something at the start, didn't get a chance to. Adam, in this episode, also tried to tell her. He got distracted, somebody jumped in, broke it off. He didn't get to tell her the secret. Episode 3, I believe, Duncan tried to tell her the secret. The secret is that Teela is destined to become the sorceress of Castle Grayskull. It's as simple as that. That's probably going to happen at the end of this series. If it doesn't, I'd be highly surprised. But there's people online going crazy about the whole, they're flipping it It's the gender swap thing again. People are jumping into like the remake of Ghostbusters, sort of a thing, like a full female Ghostbusters movie. And there's a lot of stuff over the years, and in recent years, where they kind of flip it to the female version of it. And if it worked, I wouldn't have a problem with it. And that's not the case. Like, people are just really, really jumping to conclusions as far as this series goes. And if they just go back and check out those 2 episodes, Teela's Quest and Teela's Triumph, that delves into the relationship. You find out in Teela's Quest that she's the daughter of the sorcerers. The sorcerers couldn't keep her safe. Duncan, Man-at-Arms, took her, adopted her, brought her up as his own. And Teela's Triumph, the sorceress has a weak moment. She wants to go and see her daughter. She gets into trouble, and essentially Teela in that episode had to assume the role of the sorceress to protect Grayskull. And they've got a moment at the end of that episode that's just beautiful, where Teela still doesn't find out that the sorceress is her mother, but the sorceress gets to let out the feelings that she's been holding back slightly towards Teela. That's bloody brilliant. That's where they're going with this series. Like, people are saying He-Man's going to go out of it. It's going to be Teela taking up the mantle of hero. It's not the case. That's not going to happen. They have always been... He-Man and the Masters of the Universe always had a mess load of incredibly strong female characters. And, there's a lot of episodes in the history of the show where He-Man wasn't the main focus of the stories. It was someone else. A lot of the stories. People are like, there's not enough He-Man in the show. For a show that's based upon He-Man, you don't see any of He-Man in it. It's the first part of a bigger story. Give it a chance. As I say, a lot of the older shows too, He-Man was there in the episodes, but he was very much in the background of a lot of stuff. Depending on what the story they were telling, the main character would step aside. Some of the side characters would take the forefront in the episode, and it was what it was, and this is what it is. And it's very, very similar. If you know the series at all, the original series, this is incredibly close to the heart of the original series. I'm absolutely loving it. I can't wait to see the next 5 episodes. It's going to be fantastic. I know there's like I say, I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan, so I've been following this. I've been following Revelation for at least a year and a half, if not a year, close to 2 years before it was released to the public. Before the public announcement came what it actually was, I was hearing news and rumours of stuff that was happening in the background. And I know there's a fight sequence coming up in one of the next episodes between Skeletor and He-Man that lasts something like 12 minutes. The half of an episode, they're just beating the absolute tar out of each other, and it's going to be good. Can't wait, guys. Let me know what you think of the show. Now, I'm trying my hardest to build as much trust as I can with YouTube these days. I'm trying to look at the bigger picture and things, and this show isn't really a kid's show. It's very much a grown-up version of it, but it is still an animated cartoon. So YouTube has all these new rules and regulations and what you're supposed to do when you're uploading stuff, and if it's like kids content, you have to mark it as kids content. So this is like a grey area for me, so I'm not sure. I'm just marking these as kids content because I'm more pushing the podcast version of the videos at the minute, like stripping the audio, putting it up in the audio podcast. So I'm putting my main concentration over there. So I don't mind marking these as made for kids, but having done that, I don't believe that you're able to comment on the video whenever it's marked for kids. Could be wrong with that there. If I am, please get into the comments, let me know what you think. And let me know what you think about the whole backlash on Kevin Smith. I don't think it's fair, in all honesty. Like, it's for me, this has been an absolute joy to watch this show. And again, it does have the heart of the original. And, the majority of people that are giving it death, clearly, they don't know the old show. They don't know the history. They don't know the lore of it. And the fact that this whole thing about Tila being the sorcerer's daughter, like, I haven't heard that coming up once online. So, it is an old show, heading for 40 years old. Sometimes you forget just how old you are at times, and the majority of the internet are kids and teenagers that have absolutely no idea who these characters are. But anyway, that was a longer episode than I was expecting it to be. So guys, we're going to get back into the classic He-Man and the Masters of the Universe tomorrow, along with Transformers Season 2 again. We broke off for a day or two to get this series done. We've done it now. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you do enjoy 80s cartoon goodness, this is the channel for you. And we're going to get into some new stuff as well. I'm talking a lot of classic stuff here for too long now. I need to get some newer stuff done. Anyway guys, take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.